You know what's funny? Not funny, ha ha, but funny in that soul crushing way. I spent 19 years thinking I was crazy. 19 years believing that my own memories were lies. That's what they wanted. That's what they needed me to believe. I'm Maya. I'm 27 years old, and I'm about to destroy my family. I should feel guilty about that, right? A good daughter would feel guilty. But I stopped being a good daughter the day I was 8 years old and told my parents what Uncle Richard did to me in his study. The day they looked at me, their little girl, and chose him instead. They didn't just not believe me. That would have been bad enough. No, they went further. They told me I was confused, that I had an overactive imagination. My mom said I must have seen something on TV and gotten mixed up. My dad, my dad got angry. He said I was damaging a good man's reputation. Can you imagine? I was 8, and somehow I was the villain? I started seeing a therapist when I was 25. 2 years of sessions trying to untangle what was real and what wasn't. Because that's what gaslighting does. It makes you doubt everything. Every memory becomes suspicious. Every feeling becomes a potential delusion. I'd have panic attacks in grocery stores, convinced I was forgetting something important, but not knowing what. I'd reread texts 10 times before sending them, terrified I was misunderstanding something obvious. My relationships suffered. How do you trust someone else when you can't even trust yourself? I sabotaged friendships, convinced people would eventually realize I was as unstable as my family said I was. I stayed in my apartment for days sometimes, just me and my thoughts, spiraling. I'd pull out my childhood journals sometimes, reading entries where I'd written things like, "Mom says I'm being silly. Maybe I am silly. Maybe I'm making it up." There's another one that says, "Dad yelled at me today for lying, but I wasn't lying. Was I? I can't remember anymore." 8 years old, and they had already convinced me I couldn't trust my own mind. There's this thing that happens when you're gaslit for years. You become a ghost of yourself. You learn to be small, to not take up space, to apologize for existing. I said sorry constantly. Sorry for speaking up. Sorry for having needs. Sorry for remembering things differently than how they told me they happened. Uncle Richard, meanwhile, became more successful every year. Tech mogul, philanthropist. Just last month, he announced a $50 million donation to a children's charity. A children's charity. The irony would be hilarious if it wasn't so fucking evil. My family kept inviting me to dinners. "Please come," my mom would text. "Uncle Richard will be there. We miss you." Like I was the problem. Like I was the one creating distance. But 6 months ago, something changed. I was sitting on my bedroom floor at 2 in the morning, surrounded by old photographs and journals, and I thought, what if I'm not crazy? What if I'm the only one sane one? So I started digging. I met up with Sophie, my childhood best friend. She moved away years ago, and we had lost touch. I asked her if she remembered that summer before 5th grade. She went quiet for a moment, then said, "You told me your Uncle Richard was hurting you. You made me promise not to tell anyone because your parents were mad at you." I wasn't crazy. Then I found a newspaper article from 1998, before I was even born. Lawson Tech executive accused of misconduct. Case dismissed. The accuser's name was redacted, but I knew. I knew there had been others. I hired a private investigator. Cost me $2,000 I didn't really have, but it was worth every penny. He found her. Jennifer Brooks, formerly Jennifer Hartley. She was 19 when my uncle assaulted her. She worked as his assistant. I took a bus to Portland to meet her. She almost didn't agree to see me, but something made her say yes. Maybe she was tired of carrying the secret alone. Maybe she saw herself in me. She gave me a copy of the settlement agreement. She wasn't supposed to keep it, but she did. My uncle's signature was there, and my father's signature as witness. They paid her off and made her sign an NDA. 27 years ago, they knew exactly who Richard Lawson was. My father knew, and 3 years later, he let that man anywhere near my daughter. Sitting in that bookstore in Portland, holding those documents, I finally understood. It wasn't about me. It was never about whether they believed me or not. They knew the truth all along. They just loved money and reputation more than they loved me. That's when I made my decision. I could have just sent the documents to my family, could have confronted them privately, but where's the justice in that? They'd done this publicly, gaslit me in front of relatives, friends, anyone who'd listen. Maya's going through a phase. She's always been sensitive. She has trouble separating reality from imagination. So, I compiled everything. Jennifer's testimony, the settlement documents, my childhood journals, a statement from Sophie, articles about my uncle's business practices. I created a 40-page document titled The Truth About Richard Lawson. Then, I scheduled it to be sent to every major news outlet, every business partner of my uncle's, the board of directors at his company, and the children's charity he was donating to. I set the timer for a family dinner. I showed up late, wearing my best dress. My mother looked surprised. She'd stopped expecting me to come to these things. Richard smiled at me with those predator eyes he's always had. "Maya, sweetheart, you look well." I waited until everyone was settled. Then I said, "I wanted to talk to everyone tonight about family and truth." My father immediately tensed up. "Maya, not this again." I met Jennifer Brooks. You should have seen Richard's face. All the blood just drained out of it. My mother dropped her fork. "I don't know who that is." "Yes, you do. She was 19. You assaulted her, and Dad helped you cover it up." My sister looked confused. She genuinely didn't know about Jennifer, but she was 13 when I was 8, and she did nothing then either. My mother started with the same old excuses. "Maya, you were confused." I didn't let her finish. "I have Jennifer's testimony. I have the settlement documents. I have my journals. I have witnesses. And in about 30 seconds, every major news outlet is going to receive a very detailed document." I held up my phone, watched my uncle's face go from red to pale. My father started talking about the family, about thinking through my actions, about consequences. But I was done thinking about consequences. I'd spent 19 years living with the consequences of their choices. "What family?" I asked. "The one that chose a predator over me? That family is already gone." Richard stood up, started to threaten me with lawsuits. I just smiled. 15 seconds. You can storm out if you want. Won't stop it." My sister finally asked my mother if it was true. My mother couldn't even look at her. Then my phone buzzed. Emails sent successfully. Now the world knows what I've always known. You can't gaslight everyone. I walked out, left them sitting there in that expensive restaurant with their expensive wine and their expensive lies falling apart around them. Nicole, my sister, chased me outside. She said she didn't know about Jennifer. She apologized. Part of me wanted to forgive her right there, but the 8-year-old in me remembered being alone. So I told her the truth. I needed someone to believe me. That was a month ago. Richard's company dropped him within a week. He's facing investigations from multiple organizations. The charity withdrew his donation. His reputation, the one I was accused of damaging at 8 years old, is finally getting what it deserves. My parents tried calling, left voicemails, wrote how I've torn the family apart. How could I be so cruel? How Uncle Richard is family too. They still don't get it. They're still protecting him even now. We're not speaking. Maybe we never will. And you know what? I'm okay with that. Better than okay. I'm not crazy. I never was. I was a little girl telling the truth in a family that preferred lies. And now I'm a woman who decided the truth mattered more than their approval. My therapist asked me last week how I'm doing. I told her I'm really okay. For the first time in as long as I can remember, I wake up and I don't question myself. I don't wonder if my memories are real. I don't feel like I'm losing my grip on reality. Because I'm not broken. I never was. They were. And now everyone knows it.